It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 181 for the end of August 2021. I forgot the year because it doesn't matter at this point. We're still in lockdown here in Melbourne. I'm Steve. Hi.
I'm Ben. I'm not in lockdown, so I'm just in regular old normal society where we still can't really do anything.
Well, rub it in because you were telling me just before we started recording that you have a weird odor in your house because you have to go to work, like a physical location outside of your home, and
That's
leave
it.
a beloved family pet at the homestead.
That's right. So he doesn't like that. And that's just, he shows me by doing whatever he wants on the tiles. So
Is that a thing that you think is real? Is that because he is taking it out on you, or just because
no,
he's a fairly new
because he's
dog
like
to the world?
13 weeks old and he gets it sometimes and he's inside he does have a doggy door, but he's mastered coming, and he got it last week. He's mastered coming back inside, but he hasn't quite realized that he can actually just go outside without us like showing him that the door's here. So he's getting it, but he hasn't quite got it yet.
Well, my oldest cat Wally is 6 or 7 at this point, and we woke up last night or the night before at like 5 a.m. to just like this like sound, and he just laid out like the biggest hairball you've ever seen in your life, about 3 inches to the left of where the tiling was. We just decided to do it on the carpet instead, which is just like perfect cat thing to do. Like, thanks, mate. Perfect. Great. Thanks. I'll just get all the bile. We'll just try to get it off the carpet. What a great place to start with this lovely episode of the Friendly Fire Show. You know what? Like, I honestly, lockdown just feels like in Melbourne, especially with lockdown 6, that we get out of it and then we're thrown back in. And we get out of it and we're thrown back in. And what a great segue into what I've been playing for the last couple of weeks, if not the last week. I forget when we recorded last. I'm talking about Hades. Have you been playing Hades? I know it was our game of the year 2020 on Switch and PC, but obviously it's out on PlayStation and Xbox.
So I played a bit on Switch and I kind of left it because I thought, oh, maybe I'll just come back when it's on game. When it got announced for Game Pass, I thought it was one of those games on my list to go back to and play properly. When it got announced for Game Pass, I thought, great, I'll play it on Xbox and I'll get the achievements. But I'm too bad to get the achievements. So I like this game. I can really appreciate why it's so good and why people like it so much. But I'm not very good at it. So I can only play in short bursts. But I do like the fact that you can play it like that as well.
I have so many tips if you want them.
Give me your best 2.
So you can go into the settings menu and turn on God mode, which gives you a little bit more of a boost. It also gives you 2% damage reduction every time you die. So eventually you just kind of get a little bit better because of that. Also, if you stick at it, you will get not only like good boons and stuff on the run that you're on, because you're playing as Zagreus, who is Hades' son, and your goal is to get back to the land of the living from the underworld. You also start earning like the purple tear-shaped things and keys, and like just little by little, if you keep at it, the goal isn't really to win. The goal is to kind of just keep throwing yourself into it, much like Zagreus like has to do to try to get out of the underworld. Because if you die, you just start from scratch. The more you play, the more you build up all of these abilities. And I struggled with Meg. I struggled with the next boss, which is the Hydra. I will stop spoiling bosses. But like someone that felt impossible to beat 3 runs ago is now just like, whatever, I can just destroy you as you keep going. So it is a little bit frustrating at the start. And I don't know if like, I don't know how you balance that, but it does, like the curve lessens, I guess, as you go.
Yeah, I think it's balanced pretty well. Like it's not meant to be super easy, and it isn't when you first start. You kind of either have to commit to playing it or not. But we talk about this all the time. Like that's why it's such a good Game Pass game. A lot of people will try it who otherwise may have not, may have overlooked it, and they'll probably get really into it. So it doesn't take that long to kind of for it to click for you to be like, oh, I get it, and I can see why I was initially bad, and here's how I'll get better. It's just a matter of doing it. I think that's why it fits Switch so well as well. But I think a lot of people get into it now that it's on more platforms.
It is good for, what was I trying to say just then? It's really good on Switch because of that kind of like portable, like like Pokemon-y, like start-stop nature. But I think it works better on Xbox as an example, or PlayStation, because you have a bigger, unless you're playing on your TV, of course, which obviously on Switch, same thing, but like you have a bigger piece of real estate to look at and strategize around your like dodges and like finding open spaces, where like on a Switch, it's very, very small and hard to see. And I had another thought, which I've just completely forgotten about, which just doesn't matter. I really like it. I find myself playing it when I should be doing something else, and I just like just one more run. Like I'll get through this. It'll be fine. I really, really like it, and I'm into all of the lore behind it as well. So it's cool going and talking to Orpheus or talking to Thanatos or whoever else, and like just kind of like I know a bit about that already, but you forget some things. You're like, oh, and then it's led me to go and like read up on mythology on the side, which is really cool. So yay for Hades. It's on Game Pass if you have it on PC or Xbox, and you can also buy it on Switch or PC or PlayStation. That's what I was going to say. If you happen to have it on PC, Steam, and Switch, that's the only two platforms that offer cross progression. So you can like bounce between the two and keep your progression, which is cool.
Yeah.
So yay, Hades. I've talked too much. Ben, we're recording. Are we pulling the veil back? I don't know. We're recording this at a time where we can talk about Call of Duty Vanguard and NHL 22. Admittedly, I know more probably firsthand than you do, but do you want to talk about Call of Duty Vanguard because you are the Call of Duty guy out of the two of us?
Well, you pulled the veil back now already. Basically, we're releasing this at a time we can talk about it, but you already, at the time of recording, we can't, but you've already seen Call of Duty Vanguard, and I've read your notes sneakily in the back end of Stevivor. So
let me tell you, it was 2 hours of a presentation that I could boil down into about 5 seconds. So you're welcome.
The main part here is there's a new Call of Duty game this year. So we were wondering, it was normally announced much earlier in the year. We were wondering what's going on. There were a lot of talk that this game from Sledgehammer was meant to come out last year. That was their year in the cycle, and it never did. They, of course, did Call of Duty World War II in 2017.
Yep.
I think. So they should have been up at 2020, but they've gone to 21. And there were clearly some issues. So like the last few CODs, they pulled in some studios to do more work. They pulled in Raven, who did the campaign last year for Black Ops Cold War. And they pulled in Treyarch to do zombies, because that's their thing, basically. So Raven is doing the map for Warzone. And the main game is being made by Sledgehammer. So they finally finished it.
And it's being revealed in Warzone, because that's how you have to reveal a game now. You can't just do it on Twitch or something. You have to do it in a game within a game.
Well, I suppose they can't do a big lavish event with NBA players that they normally do, and fly us over to LA to watch a trailer. But that is fine. So I think I really liked World War II, so I think it looks good. Having not actually seen it, I've read about it, but I assume it looks good. It sounds good.
We saw some really I saw some really scripted stuff from the single player campaign, which is like if you went to an E3 however many years ago, it's that kind of thing where like someone's like really slowly creeping through a jungle and there's cool things happening, and he turns and just looks for a while. Flashes of light as a cannon's going off or something. Like you'd never play it like that. So it's hard to kind of, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's like particle effects, there's fog, there's a lot of like weather things like embers and ash. And lighting effects, like taking advantage of current gen consoles and building up the Call of Duty engine, which we saw in Modern Warfare. But it's that thing of like, will you actually notice some of these things as you're just like barreling towards your objective, like shooting whatever you see pop out of a thing? But that's any game, really.
Yeah, probably. I think it immerses you in it. So the example of that I last saw at E3 2019 was Modern Warfare, where they took us into a hotel room because Activision wasn't officially at E3. They're in a hotel across the street. And they like went really slow in that mission where you had to go through the building, like the apartment complex, and go upstairs and quite tight in like a confined area. And they did it really slow. So, and they had the big booming sound, so you could hear like the train go past and all that stuff. And they like, look at the sound effects. And it is really cool. You're right. You don't really notice when you play it properly, but you kind of subconsciously do because it does build that whole atmosphere. You just kind of you're not drawn into it like they try to show you. So
it all builds into realism, which like I do understand, but like I didn't need a 2-hour presentation where they talked about recording airplane sounds for 20 minutes. Like okay, cool. Like I do think that some of these things are better being in the peripheral without having to be pointed out. But like that's fine. It's not called
they probably won't do that for the public reveal, which we're
no, of course not.
Showing this after that we're pretending we've seen. So I think they'll just go a couple of trailers.
And apart from the huge, like, well, not huge, apart from the technological leap to current gen and particle effects, and it's 60 frames on consoles. They didn't say how they're achieving that on last gen as opposed to, you know, like what's being offered on current gen, but they said 60 frames on consoles, so have at it. You should feel good about that.
Now, you own. Cold War had a 120 mode as well, so I've been playing in 120 on Series X.
They didn't mention 120 at all, but like this is the reveal of Call of Duty, which normally takes place in May. It's August. The game comes out in November, I want to say. There's been I have 3 games in my brain that I'm trying to figure out where the NDAs sit. So like it's weird that we don't know enough about this yet. Like the zombies thing by Treyarch is a prequel to the zombie stuff in Black Ops Cold War. So it's like the first kind of like zombies connected universe or whatever, if you want, with this cross media stuff. The reason why it's not, I guess, World War II Part 2, even though it technically is really, is that Sledgehammer's really leaning upon the idea of special forces. So these were special operatives who weren't just soldiers kind of, you know, like charging towards an objective. These were specialized people working in small units, like, you know, for specific reasons. And it's a concept, according to Treyarch, or not Treyarch, according to Sledgehammer, because I'm not a war historian. It's something that kind of came about near the end of World War II, and it's something that we're more accustomed to with more modern wars. So like it's its own spin on World War II. It's still World War II, obviously, but not, you know, like a D-Day thing that you're used to seeing. And the other thing, quickly, sorry, I know I'm talking so much, is that it's built around the war that we're accustomed to seeing. So it's the other battles that kind of turn the tide in the war. So the Pacific, North Africa, etc. Sorry, Ben, I cut you off. I totally cut you off.
Yeah, well, they potentially found part of World War II, which hasn't been in 50 games before. So when World War II, as in CoD World War II, came out 4 years ago, I was actually glad they went back to it, because we'd had that big period of Modern Warfare, then Future Warfare, where everything got like double jumpy and wall running and super quick, and it really slowed it down. So I thought, great. Weirdly enough, Battlefield also went to World War II around the same time, I think the same year even. So it was kind of like, hang on, now we've been saturated with it. But I did like going back to that speed for just kind of like 1 year. And the fact that Battlefield's back going modern or Future Warfare this year, modern future, depending on how far away you think that is. Yeah. It could be either. It depends on how many advancements there are.
Will we even get to 2042 at this point? Who knows?
That's a good point. Yeah. I think it's good they're finally on different wavelengths in terms of the setting. So they'll be totally different in terms of that combat loop. They're different anyway in terms of scope, but I just think that having that different setting suits it really well if you're someone who plays both. I know a lot of people don't, but there is that group who do like to bounce between them. And I think they've accidentally nailed that. I don't think it's intentional. This game was meant to come out last year, but they've just it's hit a good spot. And the special forces, it suits multiplayer accidentally, because this is ultimately a 6v6 game. So you can just say Force 1 versus Force 2, and it makes sense. So yeah.
And there is this Warzone integration. Raven's making a Vanguard themed map to go in Warzone. So like you might not even own Warzone, but you're going to potentially be playing as these special forces operators in Warzone. There was a teaser in Warzone already, which had Polina. She is modeled off of a Soviet sniper who actually was in World War II. She was in a teaser that went up like a week ago in anticipation of Vanguard. So she's going to be someone that you can play in Warzone. So like you might not even play Vanguard specifically, but you're going to be playing air quotes, Vanguard in Warzone, which is something that, like a Battlefield doesn't offer you, especially if you don't have the cash to drop on a new game.
Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to seeing more. I'm glad they finally announced it. It was going to be announced at some point. That rumor that there would be no new CoD multiplayer this year seemed a bit far-fetched considering what a cat cow this is for Activision. So, yeah, we finally got there. Now, tell me what is going on with NHL, because I've never heard you so excited about an engine.
I don't know if I am excited though. That's the thing.
Oh.
I'm excited because NHL 22 is finally going to the Frostbite engine, which is what they built Mass Effect Andromeda in, which is what all of DICE's games are in, Battlefield, obviously. FIFA and Madden maybe went at the same time. I can't remember. At least FIFA went first and Madden maybe followed shortly afterwards. But this is it's like a Frostbite as an engine, and it has different iterations. It's like 15 years old at this point. And finally, like, EA's kind of black sheep sports game is finally being brought into it, which could be good and could be bad because, like NHL 15 is when it went to Ignite, which, from what you and I have heard on the download, may or may not be an actual proper engine upgrade. You are a FIFA player. FIFA went to Frostbite.
Yeah.
Was it good when FIFA went to Frostbite?
So FIFA definitely went to Frostbite because they introduced the journey that year. So they wanted to have that story-focused gameplay, and they wanted that to show you the characters in a better way than Ignite or whatever it was could have done. So absolutely, the players look better than ever before. It allowed that story mode because there were loads of cinematics like off the pitch that were going on in that mode. And I'm pretty sure that's why they moved to Frostbite. They said other reasons, but I feel like that's the main reason. Gameplay, it probably depends what you think. Like, a lot of people would say the last 3 or 4 years have not been that good for FIFA. I mean, I liked it before that just because I got good at it, and then I'm like jaded old man. I'm not good at it anymore. This dodgy engine, but I mean, it's still quality, but it brought in different types of glitches, different things happened. So, yeah, it's not necessarily. It certainly looks better on Frostbite. I don't know that it necessarily plays better.
I'll tell you what I did. I got off my chair if you're watching the video podcast because I bought this on eBay, which is NHL 15. The last time they switched engines, and playing this compared to NHL 21 is night and day. This is putrid and awful and slow and garbage. And if moving to a new engine means having to kind of like relearn how to make a sports game to fit in the engine, that's terrifying. So I hope that's not the case. I hope they've learned, from what they've done with FIFA and from add-on to make this more accessible. But like, there's no denying the visuals are insane. Like, the ice actually is reflective in like ice. Like, it's not just like a slab of white on the ground. It's, like shadows and light, and everything's bouncing off the surfaces. And obviously it's better on current gen than last gen, but last gen still has Frostbite advantages and benefits, and everything's great. They're relying on X Factor, which is a thing introduced in Madden. And basically the way to describe it is like everybody is, stats, like I'm a 99 center, or I'm a 76 because I'm not as experienced. There's zone and superstar abilities. There's like 100 players in the NHL that have superstar abilities, which are, like can do passing better. And then there's zone abilities, and the cover star Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs has one where if you leave him on his own and he does a deke, like he has a higher chance of scoring on the deke. So like there's all these things that kind of factor in. And the jaded bit of me is like, that's cool and it will work well in like a normal gameplay scenario, but like this is just basically being built for HUT, which is the ultimate team equivalent of a FUT or whatever it is in Madden, where like they just want you to pay money to unlock these X Factor characters who can put on all these attributes and just like pay to win kind of thing, which is bleh, don't care about that.
That's where they make all their money. And
no one cares about NHL. So I'm going to finish up with this. There's really shitty cross progression as well. Kind of like the NBA game last year when it was doing the cross-gen stuff. So if you buy you can buy a more expensive version of NHL, which gives you dual entitlement to last gen and current gen if you don't have a current gen console but you plan on getting one. And the only progression that you'll carry from Xbox One to Series or PS4 to PS5 is your Hockey Ultimate Team, and not even. So you can guarantee 20 players from your Ultimate Team roster to go into your current gen system, and then everything else you own basically just gets like a value attributed to it, so you can open more card packs when you move. But as soon as you initiate the transfer, you lose access to trade anything in the old gen, the last gen, because that would wreck the economy of the last gen itself. So it's all this like money grabbing garbage when you think about it critically, which I don't like. So
yeah, EA's cross-gen sucks. We've established that already. They're refusing to do smart delivery, so disappointing.
Yeah. You know what else is disappointing? What's mega that? Corporation who rips off an indie studio and releases a new mode under the tagline "Trust Nobody."
So they knew what they were doing.
They being who?
Fortnite has basically introduced a mode which is Among Us, called Imposters. The fact that they've called it Imposters, they know what they're doing. We should probably say that games have been built off of what other games have done forever. So it's not like someone's just taken an idea and made it their own version, and that's the first time ever. Like, that's how all games have been made up till this point, more or less. Yeah. It is a little bit disappointing when something the size of Fortnite does it to something the size of Among Us.
Well, and also when someone the size of Epic is suing Google and Apple because, like they're making it hard for the little guy, air quotes, says Epic, as if they're not like
the biggest game there is at the moment. So
yeah. So like they're trying to fight for the little guy in, like free up app store stuff, but also they're just like blatantly ripping off Inner Sloth, a very indie company studio who's made Among Us, which is, like wasn't great when it launched, not popular when it launched, and is now like ridiculously popular just because of word of mouth. So Fortnite went, we can do that, which sucks.
But we saw this happen with, PUBG came out, and then Apex had to follow EA into their own version. CoD decided we're going to crush you all with our version of Battle Royale.
Fortnite took the ping system from Apex because that's great. Yeah.
Everything should have that ping system, by the way. It is great. But I mean, good example of a smaller dev coming up with a good idea, which is then copied by bigger studios, and then they copy each other's innovations within that. It's happened before. It's going to keep happening. It probably most disappointing is I don't think Among Us is out on consoles yet. It's only out on Switch and PC, I think.
Right.
So a lot of people will probably then say, there's going to be a bunch who don't follow this very closely and think, this is just a little copy of the Fortnite feature, when it eventually does come to PS4 and Xbox. So that's probably a little disappointing. If it had just been out on those consoles already, they would have had more exposure around this.
And Among Us isn't free. It's not expensive, but it's not free. And Fortnite is free. And this isn't a paid feature that you can just jump into with Epic, because they'll buy Wonder Woman, buy Superman, buy Batman, buy the Master Chief, buy Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, buy every character that has ever existed at this point. Which it's the big guy kind of like stomping on the little guy, and that sucks, to be honest, in my mind anyway. Do you care if your Xbox dashboard is in 4K, Ben?
Not really. I always have. So it's currently in 1080p. I think that's fine for UI. I can see everything I'm doing. I can read everything I'm doing. If it is possible to get the text in 4K, great. It'll probably look slightly crisper. If it's going to use up loads of resources, I don't really care.
I imagine it will, but so like the news story is Xbox Alpha skip ahead insiders now have a 4K dashboard instead of a 1080p one. My questions are like, do people on 1440p get a special dashboard? Because it doesn't seem like it. This is only an Xbox Series X thing. So like Series S can't hit that benchmark unless it upscales. So many questions like that don't even matter, because who cares in the end?
I think it actually can. Aren't there examples of Series X hitting 4K? S, I mean, in certain circumstances.
I thought it only went to 1440p though. But
on the box, that's what they say. Maybe. Anyway, either way, you're not going to notice much difference. it's probably just so that they can say our console is fully 4K for your 4K TV. So I can see why they wouldn't care about 1440p. It's not really for those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's one of those things which was just on the list to do, like they couldn't get it done at launch because it was so minor and they're finally circled around to it, that's fine. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't really bother me. I can read the screen perfectly fine, so I'm happy with it.
Does it downscale from 4K? And like questions that no one cares about because it's literally just a tile. We hit like, I want to play Hades, but that's something that happened. You're a Grand Theft Auto guy, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I would love to play the trilogy again. So the rumor being that the PS2 era GTA trilogy, GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, are currently being remastered. I think will even release this year for last gen, current gen, and Switch. Switch is surprising because if they've got this running in a strong way, but they've also got it running on Twitch, and I suppose they would have it on vanilla Xbox One all the way through to Series X. So that is
probably
quite
on
a range.
360 and PS3. Like it's Rockstar; they'll do anything.
I'm surprised. So I mean, a version of San Andreas was released on 360, but I'm surprised these games haven't been remastered before. Like they will sell tens of millions of copies. They can easily slap a full, put the three games together. They can put $100 sticker on that. People will buy it, no problem. So,
well, yeah, you see this with like the Mario All Stars, and you also like Rockstar's in no hurry to put out GTA 6. Like they're making money hand over fist with 5 and everything else.
And you outsource it to a remastering studio, so they don't actually need to do any of the work really, and they'll make a load of money. So it's a rumor at this stage. I expect it's true based on how obvious it is for them to do. I would say that if you'd only played 4 and 5 and you went back to those ones now, you will be in for a bit of a tough run because they're much harder. And it's just that era of controls was so tough to get your head around if you try to start them now. So they will need some level of work for dual analog players, but not heaps. In the same way that even like they changed the camera, Nintendo did in Mario Sunshine because it didn't make sense to current day players. So little things like that would make them more playable. But there's some tough missions, especially in Vice City.
How dated is Vice City as compared to San Andreas? Because I haven't played 3 or Vice City to that much of an extent, and I love I've played San Andreas on like probably 4 platforms at this point.
Vice City is probably the best story-wise. Like it's a Miami Vice copy, basically, but that way over the top. So very strong story. 3 is a lot more rudimentary. Like it's them taking a 2D game and turning it 3D. Still good to play, but it's a lot smaller in scope. If you're going to skip one, that's the one I would skip. Vice City, certainly some of the mission structure and like how I remember shooting being like really hard to get your head around, even when I tried to play it. But I had it on PC for some reason. Maybe I didn't have a console that could play it at the time. So playing on a keyboard probably didn't help me. But yeah, certainly, like vehicle controls, shooting controls, they improved those quite a bit to San Andreas to update them a lot more. And that was in that time where like a 2002 game versus a 2004 game or 5 game was like a massive jump. A lot happened in those years. So but they could easily, polish it up a little bit and get it slightly easier to play.
Well, I think I've bought GTA 5 on every platform that you can, and I've probably played like 20 minutes on every one but the one that I started on where I finished it properly. I like the idea of it, but I just like I never want to jump back in, but like I just keep giving Rockstar money. So I guess I'm stupid, but
that's why they've sold like 150 million copies.
I've done the same thing with Capcom and RE4.
Yeah.
So at least I know I have a problem. That's something to admit.
That's the only confusing part of this rumor is it's apparently coming out this year, but GTA 5 for PS5 and Series X is coming out this year. So that doesn't make sense. You'd think, considering how far away GTA 6 is, that they would release those two things at least 6 months, if not 12 months apart.
Or they just know that people are just going to dump money and not play them. And just, like, that's how it is.
Actually, I have just remembered. I did read a rumor about it. The original plan pre-COVID was that they would remaster these games and put them with like the next gen version of GTA 5 to get people to buy it yet another time as like a bonus. And then they could still charge you $120 for GTA 5 because you'd be like, oh yeah, I get those 3 games too. But it sounds like they've changed tack and they're going to just sell it as its own thing.
And it'll do well.
Yep.
So Eleni, our intern, who is lovely, and I, who is less lovely, had to sit for like a good hour and a half and try to figure out exactly what is going on with Remedy Games, like one of my favorite developers. Ben, just pop quiz. Do you know how many games they're working on right this second?
Um, Probably at least 3, if not more. 6.
6 games. Technically, it's like 5.5. So they announced this week that they have started proper production of their big AAA game with Epic Games, which is one of the 5.5 or 6. Let me just run through this with you quickly, and then we can talk about it. So 2 of those games are tied with Smilegate's Crossfire series. So Crossfire X is like the Xbox shooter that's coming out.
What happened to that, by the way? That was meant to be out last year, wasn't it?
It was meant to be out last year. It was delayed to this year, and who knows what's going on
again.
I previewed it like at the start of last year, like the multiplayer campaign. There was like an open beta even that you and I played in. So 2 of those games, or 1.5 games, depending on my count, are tied to Crossfire. So we'll say 2 of 6 at this point. 2 games are with Epic Games. One is being worked on right now, and the other one's coming. One is called Vanguard, which is a free-to-play co-op game, and the 6th
they're going to be sued by CoD.
There must be 7 then. God, there's 7 then. One is Condor, which is a co-op game set in the universe of Control, and the 7th one is a sequel to Control with 505 games. There's 7 games. I lied. So like one, just like take that into consideration for a hot second. Once you have it, the Epic games are Remedy Connected Universe games. So what do you think it is, or this AAA game that they're working on? There's so much I didn't even explain that well. What do you think this game with Epic Games is, which is a Remedy Connected Universe game? Well, question. That was a question.
I mean, whenever Remedy says we've got a new game coming, everyone says, "Great, you're finally doing another Alan Wake game," but they're never going to do it. There just seems to be they've done a classic Valve, like we nailed that game, we're never going back to it.
I hope they do though. I hope either it is Alan Wake 2 or it's connected enough, like the last DLC for Control was, where like you can kind of, it's like Alan Wake adjacent, and I'll take that. Like if that's all I get, I'll be fine with that.
John Wake, Alan's
I don't think it's going to be that, but even if it's like a Quantum Break sequel, and I don't know how the IP works with Quantum Break. Like it could be, though, if it's Remedy Connected Universe, it could be Alan Wake, Control, or Quantum Break. Or
it could be New Thing, which we're claiming is also in that universe.
Oh, I hope not, because that would suck. Like, I'm just sick of getting like one-shots from Remedy. I love anything that Remedy does, I love. Maybe it's Max Payne. Maybe they bought it off Rockstar and it's back in the universe. Anyway, I'm speculating. Like, what will you play this? Will you give it a try, regardless of what it is? Because we have no idea.
I mean, I liked all of Alan Wake, Control, and Quantum Break, so I don't think it would be Quantum Break. It just seemed to be too much its own thing, and it was so, invested in that. Oh, it's TV and it's game. You could break away from that and just make it full game, but yeah, it just seems like something I don't see it happening.
I'll have to double check, but I don't think Remedy actually even has the rights to it. I think Microsoft owns that, but it is in the same world. It's connected in that way. It maybe isn't part of the connected universe. Are you sick of connected universes at this point?
Yeah, I don't really. I'm over all Marvel movies. There were just too many, and I've lost where they connect to each other, and I don't really care anymore.
Did you watch What If on Disney Plus?
No.
So there's 2 episodes right now, and so far there. What if Sharon Carter? What if Agent Carter was Captain America? And the second episode is, what if Punisher was Captain America? So I feel like there's a theme that they're like inadvertently setting here. Like, I don't care if A was Captain America or not, because just give me something different. But that's a complete tangent. Myst. Do you ever play Myst? Are you young enough or old enough to have played Myst?
I played it like 10 years, maybe not quite 10, maybe 8 years or so after it came out. And so that was very much like at someone else's house. And I was like blown away by how good this game looks because at the time I only had a Game Boy. So I'm like 2D gaming only. And just to see this like 3D game in like 2000 or 2001 or whatever it was.
I played it when it came out, and I was thinking that. So now I just feel old as hell. Thank you for that.
But just funnily enough, like a week or two ago, I saw like a tweet about, just like there's a Twitter account I followed. There's just how long does this game take to complete? And it just randomly tweets out like this game takes 8 hours or 100 hours for completionists. And Mist came up, and I thought that's interesting. I didn't actually really recall playing it. Like I should play it because it's such a classic game. And then the next week, Xbox is like it's coming to Game Pass, and it's like this fully remastered version, which was actually announced last year, but everyone kind of missed that it was coming to Xbox, or maybe they didn't say Xbox. So I think that's kind of cool. It's such an old game to come to Game Pass. It's like a type of thing they haven't really done yet. It is very 2021 though, because pretty much every game we've spoken about on this show this year is an old game. Even Hades is not a new game. So
yeah,
this is much older though.
I played it on 3DO. Do you even know what that console is? I forget what the 3DO looks like, but I know I played it on a 3DO.
No, well, so that's the weird thing. Like Mist hasn't come to a console for ages. It was on like PlayStation 1 and whatever else was around then. And then it was on like DS and Switch. So like it became a handheld game. Back to consoles. It's kind of cool.
And kind of like one of the first walking simulators, really. If not
it is
first. So I don't know if it's good anymore. It's been a while since I played it, but if you have Game Pass, it's free. So like there's nothing stopping you from checking it out, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of stuff on Game Pass coming out in the next little while. If you've downloaded this when it comes out, 12 Minutes is already out, which is an Annapurna game, which I'm totally excited for. And
That's
like
great.
Psychonauts 2 comes out on the 25th. There's tons of other games between that, but like those are the big ticket ones, I reckon.
Yeah, it's been a little quiet Game Pass the last month or so. I mean, there was Flight
Hades
Simulator.
Just came out on it. Come on.
So Flight Sim was a pretty big one, but it kind of had a little lull. But now, like from Hades onwards, it's just a huge period. And I think yesterday they added a bunch of more EA Play games too. So
yeah, and the Ascent, which is like that cyberpunk RPG top-down isometric thing. Anyway,
yeah,
tons of games.
That's it.
We're still on Xbox, I guess. Phil Spencer played a Steam Deck. Ben, what did he think?
He played xCloud on Steam Deck, and he thought that was fantastic. That's probably why I would get one. But you can also just install Windows and install the Xbox app, and then play Game Pass games natively, and Steam games as well, and Epic Game Store games, which is probably what I would do if I were a Steam Deck. I probably wouldn't use the Steam OS. I would put my own Windows on there, just download the games, because we've talked. You could do that too. We've talked about before. xCloud works in Australia, and it works pretty well, but it's nowhere near as good as just downloading the game. Like it's a bit blotchy and stutters sometimes, so I'd prefer just to download it. And then you basically got yourself a Xbox Switch type of deal. So yeah, if we can ever get them here, because there's no indication they'll be sold anytime soon. Maybe next year.
Yeah. Well, so I think he played like Halo Master Chief and Age of Empires 3 proper Steam releases on the deck as well, which he said were great. But like, it's at this point, like Sony's not going to make a Vita 2 or whatever you're going to call it, and Microsoft doesn't need to, because either you buy an Xbox or you buy an Xbox Series X with an X screen as manufactured by Australian geniuses, so like you have like a portable laptop to play Xbox, or you put it on your phone with a backbone, or your phone with a Razer Kishi, or you get a Steam Deck. Like you don't need a portable Microsoft device, because there are portable Microsoft devices. It's kind of clever.
Yeah, I probably will get one now that I know it works really well with Game Pass. So if I can get one.
Well, and it's like you, I have a gaming PC. You don't. This is all, by all intent and purpose, a gaming PC that you can either play as a handheld or connect to a monitor, and it is a gaming PC at that point. And you can use a peripheral to play it. Like it's kind of like it's like a Switch, but with the shackles unshackled.
Let's just see if it can play Flight Simulator, because I do have a laptop that can play most things, but
Fallout Simulator?
Flight Simulator. It almost exploded when I tried to play that. So that's the test.
Well, I'm kind of excited for it, but like we can't get it here yet, as I think you said before. So
well, and it's so hard to, some people on the weekend asked me what console they should get, and I said probably an Xbox with Game Pass is great. And they said, oh, I tried to get one, but it's like you can't get one anywhere. And I think the average person isn't like us who are, watching Ozbargain constantly being like, there it is, it's up on Amazon for 2 minutes, I'm going to buy one. They want to just walk into a store and pick one up. So this is going to have the same problems. Like if it's out of stock for years, it's just I know it's just the situation we're in, but it's kind of a drainer that we're so far in this generation and any hardware is just impossible to get.
2 questions. Are your friends like as advanced as we are with their televisions and have like 4K TVs, or like would an Xbox Series S, I guess this is the second question, would a Series S work in that? Because they
Series S would work.
Bountiful.
They didn't want the Series S mainly because no disk drive and games on disk are so much cheaper, and they can also just 2 of them were brothers, so they were like, one of us would buy it and then just give the disc to the other one to play. And the other one is the storage is so much smaller, and they looked into how you expand that, and the memory card costs $350. I'm like, well, you're better off just paying for the $200 more for the bigger console and you get double the storage space. So it did make me realize that Xbox, if they had got 1 terabyte in the Series S for the same price at 500, that'd be a good buy. But I think going at 512, it's kind of useless. Like the more I see the Series S, the more I think, the storage isn't enough. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
And I'm like, oh, you're wrong, because I have like a Seagate thing that I can just like plug into a Series S and be like, oh, problem solved. But yeah, like that's.
But if you're going to spend that extra money, you might as well just get the extra 500 gig in the bigger console to begin with.
That's true. Ben, the last news story, we're gonna hit an hour on this, which is bad. We're trying to hit like 30 minutes, but whatever, we've doubled it. Do you know the origins of the name Stevivor?
I do know that. I think your name is Steve.
Correct.
You like the show Survivor.
Also correct. And I came here when it was like the Australian outback, but that's beside the point. All 40 seasons, 40, all 40 seasons of Survivor are now available to live stream in Australia on a service called Paramount Plus. Will you be getting it?
No.
For Survivor alone and nothing else.
Here's why I'm not getting it. There's too many streaming services. This is very old man yells at cloud, but like I'm already over my limit. So I'm not taking on any more. Like I'm not, even if the best streaming service ever came out tomorrow, I wouldn't get it on the basis. I'm not even looking at any others. So it sucks that there's too many now.
Yeah. It's $8.99 a month, or a little less if you get it on a yearly basis. We have it. I'll fully admit to already having it. Because 1, I will watch the Survivor, like the 7 seasons of Survivor that I haven't seen, because I don't care about the Australian one. And like probably more importantly for me, because I do like watching TV shows that I am watching legally and not, getting on the BitTorrent channel. The new Star Trek franchises, Strange New Worlds and Prodigy, are going to be coming out pretty like 99% coming out on Paramount Plus, because it's owned by CBS, which owns 10, which owns Viacom, which is Paramount.
Yeah, have you watched Channel 10 recently? Like
all they do is do Paramount ads. We watch on Monday nights. We watch Have You Been Paying Attention?
I watched that last night briefly. Half the screen is Paramount Plus watermark. Like,
outrageous. And there's like 5-minute ads for Paramount Plus shows between episodes of whatever you're watching.
Anyway, carry on.
So like if you're a Star Trek fan right now in Australia, you have to have Amazon Prime Video for Lower Decks and Picard. You have to have Netflix for Discovery. You have to have Stan for the movies, and you have to have, is that all of them? Paramount Plus for the new shows coming up. That's like 5 streaming platforms for Star Trek.
Oh, hot tip.
Let alone anything else.
Hot tip on streaming services, even though I just raged about them. If you go on your PS5 now and you download Apple TV, you get 6 months free for signing up through PS5. So I do have 6 months of Apple TV. I will be canceling after that 6 months, but Mythic Quest is quite good, which is the Ubisoft slightly involved show. I think they just kind of prompted it. But yeah, it's surprisingly entertaining. So that's about a game dev basically being a real jackass.
Well, we were talking about Paramount Plus, but we're going to talk about Apple TV instead because there's nothing on Paramount Plus unless you like Survivor and Star Trek soon. Apple TV, there's an M. Night Shyamalan show called Servant, which is very, very good. Like very like what a twist, M. Night Shyamalan, but like, like you've seen his movies, you know what to expect to some degree. If you like that, watch that. Morning Wars or Morning Show, because it's
Oh
two
yeah,
different
I heard of
names
that.
with like Reese Witherspoon and not Lisa Kudrow. Who's the other one? Jennifer Aniston is also very good. There's like a bunch of decent stuff on Apple TV, which is not what we were talking about, but there you go.
Smash through it in my 6-month free trial. The last streaming thing I want to talk about is just because it took so long, is the KO Sports app has finally launched on PS4 and 5 as of August 2021. And if you go to Stevivor, you'll find a story from November 2018 where the CEO of KO said, we're launching on PlayStation just around the corner. It'll be out early 2019. That is 2.5 years late. So they also
said... Pandemic.
Well, that was a year and a bit before any pandemic. They've also said at the time it's coming to Xbox soon. So I guess 2026, it might come to Xbox.
2024
I don't know.
5.
And as much as, I do use KO, the complaint I had about it is it's too hard because, every other streaming service, you are someone more of my parents' age and they just want to press a button on their TV remote and there's the app. They don't want to have a different box for whatever they're using. And the fact that KO is on almost nothing, they're not going to do Chromecasting to get it. So they're just not interested. That's its fault. It's taking forever to get on other devices. It's meant to be on LG TVs 3 years ago as well, and it's still not there. Like, come on, hire a developer or something.
So, like, the weird, and back to Paramount Plus really quickly, the weird thing about Paramount Plus is that it launched in the States in March, and it's launched now in Australia. The States on Xbox has a Paramount Plus app, which you can download if you switch to US. It's still CBS across the world. You can download it if you kind of circumvent the system in Australia, and like assumedly because you're paying Paramount for the service, you'd think that you could launch it, and it just like completely fails. It's just like, I don't know what's happening here in Australia. What's going on? So like they've launched this thing months ago, and they've launched it in Australia, but they've like half launched it, side launched it. It's just like, come on, like you should know by now. Just get it right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ben, to round us off, it's a quiet week or fortnight in delays, but there's still things delayed. So what do we got?
Just one that I'm aware of, which is Life is Strange Remastered Collection. Was meant to be out in September, I think, and it's been pushed back to next year. But the good news is if you'd like to play the first Life is Strange game, you can just play it on basically any console. It was on so many platforms, and you can just play it unremastered, just regular mastered. Still good and much cheaper too.
The same thing applies to the other game in that collection, Life is Strange Before the Storm. Same exact thing. So
yeah,
I guess you just don't get achievements if you play it again from scratch.
Not a big deal, that one.
So just wait till 2022 if that's your concern, really. But True Colors still comes out in September, and so does the DLC, which revolves around Steph from Before the Storm, whatever deck 9, deck 13, deck 9 did. Anyway, I'm not used to recording on the same computer that I have everything else going on, so sorry about all the noises in the background. Ben, how do we find you on the internet?
I am Ben_Salter on Twitter, and yourself.
S Wright AU. This will come out on Friday. We have got a giant thing about Call of Duty Vanguard. We've got like crazy multiple pieces on NHL 22. So if you are interested in either of those, go check it out and let us know what you think. Otherwise, we'll see you later.
2 weeks. We'll see you then.